Welcome to the Boomer Briefing Podcast, where we help you solve a critical business issue in 20 minutes or less. I'm your host, Sandra Wiley, President and Shareholder at Boomer Consulting. And with me today is Crystal McClellan. And I'm going to ask you to say your last name for me because I should have said that better. Hi, Crystal, and thank you for being on the episode of the podcast. Crystal is the Human Resources Manager at Pinion, and today we're going to talk to her about the evolution of HR roles in M&A for organizational growth. So, Crystal, I'm going to let you start by just introducing yourself a little bit.
Hi, Sandra. Thank you for having me. I could talk to you for days, so this is really cool that we get to do this. And it's Crystal McClellan, so it's a Scottish, not mine. I inherited it through marriage, but yes, it's McClellan. So I have been with Pinion for 10 years, not always in this role. I've sort of elevated to this role over the last few years. I have a diverse background. I've done a lot of different things and came into human resources sort of by accident and sort of by a necessity in needing to find a direction in my life. And I had always had a little bit of human resources in all my past roles. And it really sort of rolled up in my early 30s where it was like, well, you need to hone in on something. And HR was it. And it was less popular 17 years ago as it is now. It wasn't as popular to be in HR. It was sort of that admin-y role. And it's really changed over the years.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, I think both you and I have talked about before that we came to human resources not necessarily directly, right? It came through experience of other things and education that we got along the way. And, you talk about just the school of hard knocks, if you will, and you learn about people. And I think that Pinion is super lucky to have found you, and maybe you're super lucky to have found Pinion. So, today we're going to talk about M&A, and I know Pinion and you and your past experience and at Pinion have been involved with mergers and acquisitions throughout their career and throughout their history, right? In your experience, when should HR be pulled into that M&A process at a firm? Some people sit back and they wait. Others are pulled in from the very beginning. You've had a lot of experience in that area. What do you think? When should HR be pulled into the conversation?
Inception. You shouldn't hesitate to bring your HR business partners to the table. And it's going to, as long as you have some depth on your team, it's going to start with one person in HR and maybe end up with another person in HR. But you need to get your HR director or your HR business partner at the table with you because they are going to bring an empathetic role, sort of a collaborative, empathetic business role to the situation, which is what's needed because this is a time of large change, and with change comes fear. And so when you have HR business partners at the table, they can help mitigate that. Yes, they can help do all the compliance pieces too, but they're bringing the humanity right from the beginning, and they're helping you work through that. Let them do that.
I love that, and you're absolutely right. From the very beginning, people is a part of our organization, right? It's a part of what we do, and I oftentimes laugh at particularly CPA firms who think that the number side or the business side is really the most important. And we know that while it is super important, the people side is just as important. And we have to prepare for that as we're looking at, that merger or that acquisition that we're getting ready to put into place. So I'm curious about, we talk about the people side, and I think a lot of people just think about hiring or retention or culture, but what's the most important role that HR will play in the merger and acquisition process within the firm? So is it communication or gathering feedback? And when you look at that, what are the kind of the pieces of the puzzle that HR can really help with as our firm leaders are looking at an acquisition or potentially a merger situation?
Well, HR is a linchpin in the process. So you're right. Yes, they're doing all these things. They're bringing people together. They're asking questions. But part of what they're doing, and of course, it's around the people. So you can you can have these M&As, and you can talk about the business side of it and bringing clients on, doing different things with clients. That's important. That's how we all get paid. But if your people aren't aligned, especially the people coming in, none of that's going to work, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be painful. And so what HR can do is start mitigating that from the beginning. So they can take a look at how the incoming firm has historically worked on their employee engagement, how that may differ from that firm to this firm, understanding the incoming policies, looking if there's any similarities, things that can be melded, because you don't think those are a big deal, but they really are. They're really a big deal to the employee, and they create grievances within the employees if they don't feel like they are getting anything out of it. There needs to be, a little bit of hand washing back and forth. And then on the opposite side of that, where can you blend, but where are they going to feel the burn, and addressing that right up front, understanding it, and being open and honest with communications. Let's just get it out of the way. This is where it's going to be very different for you. This is how we're handling it. We want you to know that.
I could not agree with you. Yeah, I was going to say, I couldn't agree with you more, because I think just the communication side, and it's really interesting. If you read most articles or most things that you talk about, as people are thinking about mergers or acquire, and usually it's acquiring, right? We're acquiring a firm of some kind.
Right.
They say that the one thing that can break the whole deal, even after it's already done, right? You signed on the dotted line, so you all get together and you're going to sing Kumbaya, right? The one thing that can really mess it all up is cultural blend, right? Do you fit, or can you fit? So I have a question that I did not prepare you for, so sorry. Do you think it is, what do you think you can do to measure the culture between the firm that's being acquired and the firm that's acquiring? I've heard people say they're just going to become us. We're not going to give them a choice to blend it. They're just going to become us. I've heard other people say, no, you really have to look at what's the best of them and the best of you and blend it together. What do you think is the right answer to that in that cultural blend?
Yeah, and I think they're not going to become you. And especially if you've got long-term employees, long-term high-performing employees, they're not going to become you. And in fact, they're upset. They're upset. They just are. There's very few that are going into this saying, this is wonderful. They're going in saying, I hate this. This is a big change, and I'm scared of change. Whether or not we realize it, most people have a lot of fear around change. So the fear factor comes to life, and that starts informing people's decisions, their attitudes, how they act. And that's where the problems start arising. So again, having HR at the table at inception is really, really important. Looking at the policies, looking at the benefits, trying to find that blend if you can. But if you can't, and if something is going to be a problem, addressing it up front. It's when you try to hide things from people or push them under the rug and don't have honest conversations with the incoming staff about what's going to be different, that scares them. But I think if you address it with them, you give them a chance to ask their questions, you give them time to ask their questions, you're open and honest and have good conversations with them. That's all they're really asking for, to be honest. What they don't want to do is be lied to or not have something addressed and then have to find out later. That creates I don't know if that's the right word, but a malaise that sort of transfers. And as you know, it can poison the well, and you don't want that. You want people to be as happy as they can or feel as okay as they can with what's going on.
Yeah. I guess in that same vein, about people understanding this new firm and becoming a part of this new firm, what do you think are some of the best practices? I mean, when you at Pinion have acquired a firm, what are some of the best practices to make them feel as comfortable as possible? Because normally, in most firms, I won't say every firm, but in most firms, the firm that's being acquired has no idea that they're being acquired until almost the morning that it happened. And people walk in on a Monday morning and say, just so you know, we were acquired by XYZ, and you are now not Sandra Wiley firm, you're, Crystal firm, right? And it's like this blow. How can firms out there make that easier for the employees that are going to be hearing that message? What are some of the best practices, do you think?
I think once the letter of intent is signed between the two firms and the basic due diligence is done, right? Nothing's looking funny on the financials. We're feeling really good. Once we have a good sense that we're going to get married, this marriage is going to happen, then that's when you need to tell employees and start scheduling some town halls.
Mm.
You need to provide them with, yeah, absolutely. Provide them with information on your benefits. Have town halls, or if you don't want to have town halls, you could have leadership speak, and then you can open up a forum where they can ask questions, and then we give us a chance to answer those questions. So maybe you don't have a live town hall because you don't know if there's going to be some vitriol. You don't know how people are going to feel. Sometimes feelings bubble to the surface, they just do. But maybe it's leadership doing a video and addressing everybody, and then opening a forum for questions, and people can see those questions and answers. And I think that's okay. However you can communicate is the best thing to do, as long as it's good communication. There is such a thing as bad communication. So
Right.
long as it's good, honest, transparent, friendly communication, that's what people want to know. When people have questions, they stew. They get in their heads about it, and then it creates the fear. And you don't want to do that. You want to try to mitigate that as much as you can. It makes it so much smoother.
Yep. I would agree with you completely.
Day
So,
one is horrifying to me, Sandra. Day one, like we're going live tomorrow with a new firm. What? Why? Why? I would ask why they do that.
yeah.
Are you afraid people are going to quit? Well, they're going to quit no matter what if they're going to quit. So that's a quick way to get them to quit, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I heard about a firm one time that that's exactly what they did. So they said nothing. They hid every meeting, everything that they were doing till the morning. I mean, they came in on the weekend and they got everything ready. And on Monday morning, the new managing partner was standing in front of the team and said, "Well, I'm so excited. We have acquired your firm." And they said people literally, first of all, looked shocked. Then and I said, "Did anybody just quit?" I mean, I wondered if anybody just quit. And they said, "No, that we didn't just quit, but they had a lot of fallout over the next couple of weeks because people, you're exactly right. It was the fear factor. They had first of all, they felt like they weren't trusting of anybody anymore, because if you could do this to me overnight, guess what's going to happen tomorrow? And then secondly, we don't have any way to build that trust with that new firm ahead of time. So it was an awful, awful feeling. So I'm curious. So thinking about the awful feelings, right? What's the most challenging experience you've personally ever seen in an M&A activity and that you have been a part of? So something that you saw that, oh my gosh, that was a huge challenge and this is how we addressed it.
Well, I think I'm going to give you an overall and then a very specific. So overall, it's always, hey, we're a great culture fit. This is part of the reason we're coming together. And then we get in and we start working with the employees and the leadership and realize it is not a good culture fit. That's scary. And how do you mitigate that? How do you bring that back to leadership to say, on the surface, it may look the same, but inside, once you start peeling the onion, it is not the same, not at all. So, that's an honest conversation you have to have with your leadership. And are we going to continue forward? What does this look like? But I've done so many M&As in my career and had a lot of tears, lots and lots of tears, especially sometimes when HR shows up and we're starting to talk about benefits and the change. And yes, it's good. We're doing what we should be doing. We're communicating, but people's emotions are really high. And I don't know that I've done an M&A where somebody hasn't cried, whether it's personally, whether it's in a group setting. And it's just more about being empathetic and putting yourself in their shoes and understanding where they're coming from, because how would it feel if I were on that side? I mean, we're the big bad firm coming in, gobbling you guys up. What does that feel like to you? I don't want it to feel that way. But also, you can't feel like family in one day or 1 month or 2 months. That takes time.
Yeah.
And so it's just assuring people that you're going to do your best for them, that you're here for them, and you're going to do your best to take any concerns they have and bring it to leadership to help them with any questions they have. That's all you can do. And a lot of people don't lean on empathy. I hear a lot of times like, I wish they'd just do what we told them to do.
Yeah.
that's really the wrong attitude to have, because they're not going to do that. They're
Yep.
absolutely not going to do that.
And in that same vein, I remember a firm one time that, and it's the first time I've really ever, I've heard about a lot of mergers and acquisitions along the way. It's been a plethora, right, over the last 10 years. But I heard one time, sometimes it's the power that they have had before that all of a sudden they don't feel like they have. And power is kind of a big word, but even in someone who's in administration, who's been the firm administrator, let's pick on that position. They've been the firm administrator at a smallish firm. They've not reached that pinnacle of having to be a COO yet. And they really have the trust and everybody comes to them for answers. And all of a sudden they're pulled into they've been acquired, and now they have a COO over them. Their position changes. They're not necessarily the top dog anymore. That's a challenge, right? And you are absolutely right. When you talk about, it's all about the conversations and putting yourself in their place. If you were that person, how would you feel? And how could you make that feel a little bit more okay? And sometimes and that's the reason we need HR to help us, because they can coach people through that and they can help people through that. And it doesn't have to be quite so scary. So now let's flip the script, right? On the more rewarding experiences, what have you personally seen that has really been rewarding for you? That's been something that's really makes you feel good about an M&A situation that you have been a part of?
And I thought, so this is a question you gave me, and I thought a lot about it, and this was hard for me. This was hard for me to answer, because the rewards with M&A are slow, and they come with milestones. We talk about what's hard. Day one is really hard. So you do all this work leading up, but then the real work starts day one. And I think for me, that's when we start to see the rewards, because that's when the real integration starts. Is, okay, now we're working together. We're all in the same systems. We have a vision of what this firm should look like together. Leadership has proposed a vision. So we all have been told what the vision is. Are we all buying it? And how are we moving forward together to do that? And if we are, that's when people are saying, hey, this new firm's offering me some other things that I wasn't able to do before, and it's really changing my life because I have more flexibility, I can do more things. Those are the wins for me.
I love the
rewards.
Yeah, I love the way you said that. It comes slowly, right? It doesn't just happen like this big reward the first day. It's more after a week, 2 weeks, 3 months, 5 months.
Yeah.
People look at you and go, wow, this was a good thing. Or a year, yeah. I mean, this was a good thing. So
as somebody in HR who also does FMLA, the first time an employee from the other side has a baby or some big life event that we get to walk through with them, and they're like, hey, now their baby's wearing a pinion onesie, and it's just sort of, it's really cool to see that, because that is the integration. That's the integration.
I love it. Okay. With all of the firms out there is a lot of M&A still going on. There's a lot of PE money that's being spread around, right? A lot of change that's happening. So what's the one piece of advice that you would give to the HR professionals out there if their firm was contemplating that within this next year on our strategic plan, it says we're going to have an acquisition? What one piece of advice would you give your HR friends out there?
Do your research. Your research. Know who the potential incoming firm is. Understand their clients, and start understanding their people. If you're able to, and once communication is had that this is happening, start sending your leaders in. Your tax and A&A leaders need to be going in. You as HR needs to be going in. Interview the employees. Ask them what they do. Find out the way they work. Know the incoming firm. Because it's going to be so important when you're trying to piece things together one Lego at a time. And that's really what you're doing. You're piecing something together one Lego at a time. But if you don't have the right colors and you don't know what you're dealing with, it's a mess.
So true. So true.
Yeah, it's not without hard work either. It is. M&A is a lot of work. It's a lot of detail work. I think the enjoyment in it is when there's gratification and helping others. There's gratification for you as an HR professional in helping others, and it can be the smallest of help or the largest of help, but be a help. Don't be a hindrance.
Thank you so much. Everybody can learn from what Crystal has just shared with us. And I am so happy that we were together today. So thank you so much for joining us today. Listeners, if you enjoyed our topic, look out for new episodes every Tuesday morning. We like to rotate the topics and the themes, but the common theme among all the episodes is we believe that they're critical to your firm's growth and success. So please subscribe, and thanks so much for listening. I hope you have a fantastic day.